Again, and I am going to be working on the second video out of 3 videos. Let's continue the physical assessment with assessment of the 12 cranial nerves. The first cranial nerve is called the olfactory cranial nerve. It detects the smell. Let's pretend we have a cup of coffee and I'm pinching one of the nostrils and I'm having her to smell the coffee. And the same with the other nostril, smell the coffee. The second cranial nerve is the oculomotor. It checks the visual acuity, the visual fields, and the fundi. This is inspected with the ophthalmoscope. And as I'm using the ophthalmoscope, I am checking the ocular fundi. Cranial nerve number 3. 2 and 3 are the optic and oculomotor. It checks the pupillary reaction with the light. It should accommodate in response to the light. What is next? The 3, 4, and 6 make my eyes do trick. This is the abducens, the trochlear, and oculomotor. It detects the oculomotor movement of the 6 cardinal directions of gaze. Number 5 is trigeminal. It detects the corneal reflexes, the facial sensation, and the jaw movement. Open and close your jaw. Now, all these cranial nerve assessments are checking for symmetry. That's the key into this assessment. Next is the facial movement, or number 7. I'm asking the patient to raise your eyebrows, show me your teeth, smile, puff out your cheek like this. There you go. Again, we're looking for facial symmetry or any droopiness. Next is the acoustic. It's number 8. And I'm going to, this is the whispering voice, or the Weber and the Rhine test that we did yesterday with the tuning fork. Next is 9 and 10, the vagus and the glossopharyngeal. And this is also what we did yesterday. You open your mouth and the soft palate should rise up upon saying ah. And then we have 5, 7, 10, and 12. They check the voice and the speech. And we have to, upon the assessment, I have to listen to the patient's words. Number 11 is the spinal. I'm checking the neck and the shoulder movement. Shrug your shoulders, perfect. And number 12 is the hypoglossal. It checks the tongue symmetry, and like stick out your tongue and check for deviations from the midline. Let's continue with the neck, and I'm going to start with the range of motion. Please turn to the right and then turn to the left. Perfect. Let's do the lymph nodes. Let's begin with the pre-auricular. It's right in the front of the ear. Then we have the posterior auricular. It's superficial to the mastoid process. Next we have the tonsillar, which is at the angle of the mandibular. And then we have the occipital. On this side, it is at the base of the skull posteriorly. Next, we have the superficial cervical, which is a kind of below the ear, superficial to the sternomastoid. Then we have the posterior cervical, further down, along the anterior edge of the trapezius, and subclavicular. It's at the angle by the clavicle and the sternomastoid process. Then here in the jaw, can you please face this way to the right? Yes. Then we have the tonsillar, which is at the angle of the mandibular. Next, further down the jawline, we have the submandibular. It's at the tip of the mandible. Further down is the submental. It's the midline behind the mandible. And the deep cervical chain is to the side, down to the deep to the sternomastoid, and usually it's inaccessible during an exam. Then we're going to continue with the trachea. It is located below the thyroid and the cricoid cartilages, and I'm inspecting the trachea from any deviations from the midline by placing the finger on one side of the trachea and comparing to the other. Can you swallow? Very good. Let's take a look at the thyroid. Please look up as I'm inspecting the thyroid. It is at the region below the cricoid cartilage, the thyroid cartilage, and the cricoid cartilage, and the thyroid gland. Please swallow up a pretend sip of water. Okay, very good. And I'm observing for symmetry as you're swallowing. And let's turn around. I'll be palpating the thyroid gland by locating the thyroid isthmus. Very nice. There is two ways we can do it, anteriorly and posteriorly. The best is behind the patient. Let's continue with the anterior thorax and the lungs. Let's start with breathing movements and the use of accessory muscles. Normal breathing is quiet and easy without any use of accessory muscles or any straining. The breath sounds should be clear when the patient is sitting, and observing for the thorax to be prominent as well. Normally, there shouldn't be any obvious wheezing or cyanosis. And then let's do the posterior. Let's turn around. Could you please put your feet that way? And let's do the posterior. Let's begin with the breathing movements. Take deep breaths. I'm checking for symmetrical and equal rise and fall of the chest and of the chest wall. Then we're going to take a look at the splenius processes and paravertebral muscles. There are important anatomical landmarks to find C1 and T1. C7, I meant to say C7 and T1. Then we have the anterior posterior diameter. It should be less than transverse. So I'm looking at the diameter posteriorly and we're measuring it. And then I'm looking at the diameter. Lift up your arm of your chest anteriorly. So the anterior should be smaller than the posterior. Next is the chest expansion. We're going to palpate the chest. And I'll be placing the hands on the outer edge of the costal margin, and I'm going to have the patient take a deep breath. Take a deep breath. Very good. And moving with this detection, the hand should be moving equally on both sides. Next is tactile fremitus. It is checked by palpating the patient's back to the left and to the right as the spine, and I'm asking you to say 99.
99.
99.
99.
Again.
99.
Again.
99.
Again.
99.
In this fashion, comparing the left and the right side. Next is the percussion sounds. The percussion sounds are done to detect any abnormality in the breath sounds. The percussion sounds should be resonance, and then over here should be visceral downness, and then it should be flat over the scapula, and it should have liver downness. And the normal breath sounds should be bronchial, which are heard over the trachea and the larynx. Then it's the brachiovesicular, heard over the major bronchi, and they're usually on inspiration and expiration. And the vesicular, they're heard over the lung fields, low pitch, such as low pitch. Let's continue with inspecting the cardiovascular system. I'm going to have you turn around. I'm expecting the jugular vein distensions, the jugular vein for distension. Then we have inspection, and then we have the palpation of the carotid arteries, checking the neck for pulsations, the right, and as the thumb goes over the right and the left carotid artery. Then we have the precordium, and then we feel for the apex. It should feel gentle with no heaves, like this. And then we place the hand at the mid-clavicular line. Anything else? And auscultation of the carotid arteries with the stethoscope occurs here and here, and the heart sounds are overheard toward the midline, slightly to the left. They should be regular, normal S1 and S2 sounds, without any murmur or extra beats. Thank you, and shortly we'll film the last video, number 3. Thank you.